Have you ever wondered why certain patterns keep showing up in your life, or why certain emotions trigger you more than others? In the terrain of the human psyche, there lies a spectre, a shadow self as coined by Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. This shadow self isn't your enemy, nor is it a sinister force. Rather, it's part of you, a part that's been tucked away, often neglected and sometimes even forgotten. It's an integral part of your identity, formed from those pieces of ourselves that we'd rather ignore or deny. This shadow is sculpted by our past experiences, our childhood and our encounters with life. Each time we face a part of ourselves that we're reluctant to accept, the shadow grows. Each time we encounter a feeling we'd rather not feel or a thought we'd rather not think, it becomes a part of this shadow. Now, you might be wondering, why should we care about this shadow self? Well, here's the thing. Our unacknowledged parts, our shadows, have a profound influence on our behavior, our reactions, and our relationships. They manifest in various ways, from jealousy and addiction to anxiety and self-sabotage. They subtly direct our actions, often in ways we don't even realize. But it's not all gloom and doom. The beauty of the shadow self is that it holds valuable lessons and opportunities for healing. And the first step to harnessing these lessons is understanding. Understanding our shadow self, acknowledging it, and integrating it into our conscious self is the first step towards profound personal growth and healing. This isn't a one-off process or a quick fix. It's a journey into the shadows. It's about bringing our shadows into the light so they can teach us, guide us, and ultimately empower us. So let's embark on this journey, a journey into the depths of our psyche, a journey into our shadows. Because as Carl Jung aptly said, the shadow is a living part of the personality. It cannot be argued out of existence or rationalized into harmlessness. Understanding our shadow self is the first step towards profound personal growth and healing. So, how do we begin to recognize these shadows lurking within us? Well, the first step is reflection. It's about turning the mirror inward and taking a good look at ourselves. This isn't a time for self-criticism or judgment, but for honest observation. We need to ask ourselves some crucial questions. What are the things that trigger us in our daily lives? What situations or people make us feel uncomfortable or defensive? These triggers can often be signals pointing us towards our buried shadows. Next, we must identify our judgment patterns. We all have them. It's human nature to judge, to compare, to categorize. But when we find ourselves judging others harshly or unfairly, it's a clear sign that we're projecting our own shadows onto them. Similarly, when we judge ourselves, it's often because we're struggling with accepting certain aspects of our character. Resentment and envy are other powerful indicators of our shadow self. So if we find ourselves holding grudges or feeling bitter about someone else's achievements or lifestyle, it's likely that we're wrestling with our own insecurities or unfulfilled desires. These feelings can guide us toward the parts of ourselves that we've neglected or denied. Now, think about your struggles. What are the things you find difficult? What are the areas in your life where you seem to hit roadblocks repeatedly? These struggles can offer valuable insights into our shadows. They show us where we're holding ourselves back, where we're letting our fears or insecurities dictate our actions. And lastly, consider what you find inspiring and fascinating in others. These qualities can mirror the traits we wish to cultivate within ourselves, the parts of us that are yearning for recognition and expression. Shadow work isn't about shaming or blaming ourselves. It's about understanding, acceptance, and transformation. It's about reclaiming the parts of ourselves that we've pushed into the darkness and bringing them into the light. Recognizing these patterns is a pivotal moment in our journey towards self-awareness. It's the first step on a path that leads to emotional balance, inner freedom, and a more fulfilling life. Once we recognize our shadows, what's next, you might ask? Well, it's time to sit with them, to face them without judgment or fear. This is the part of the journey where we delve deeper, where we confront our shadows and the emotions they evoke. It's a daunting task, no doubt, but an essential one on the path to self-discovery and healing. Imagine sitting in a quiet room devoid of distractions, just you and your thoughts. It's in this silence where we meet our shadows, where we allow ourselves to feel the emotions they stir up. We might feel anger, sadness, or even fear. These emotions, however intense, are not our enemies. They are signposts guiding us towards the roots of our shadows. Remember, confronting our shadows is not about passing judgment, it's about understanding. When we judge, we create barriers, we resist. But to heal, we must let go of resistance. We need to allow ourselves to feel, to delve into these emotions without fear. This is how we start to understand our shadows, to see why they exist and how they influence our lives. It's also a time for introspection. We start asking ourselves questions. What triggers me in life? When and how do I judge others? What do I dislike in others and why? These questions, though they might seem uncomfortable, help peel back the layers of our subconscious, unraveling our shadows piece by piece. This process is not a quick fix or a checklist. It's a journey, one that requires patience and courage. Each shadow we confront is a step towards understanding ourselves better, towards healing. It's not easy, but remember, every challenge we face is an opportunity for growth. So sit with your shadows, confront them, feel the emotions they evoke. It's in this silence, this solitude, where we start to untangle the roots of our shadows. By taking this step, by bravely facing our inner truths, we move closer to becoming whole again, to finding inner freedom. In the silence and solitude, we start to untangle the roots of our shadows. As we delve deeper into our shadows, we often find that they originate from our childhood experiences. This revelation leads us to the concept of reparenting, a fascinating process that involves nurturing our inner child and healing the wounds of our past. Reparenting is not about blaming our parents or caregivers for our shadows. Rather, it's about understanding that they, like us, are human and may have unintentionally passed on their own shadows. It's about forgiving them and, more importantly, forgiving ourselves. In reparenting, we step into the role of our own parents. It's about providing the love, understanding, and guidance that our inner child may have missed out on. It's about giving ourselves the permission to feel, to make mistakes, and to grow from them. Imagine your adult self having a conversation with your younger self. What would you say? What comfort or advice would you offer? This dialogue is a vital part of reparenting. It allows us to address our deep-seated fears, insecurities, and unmet needs. Reparenting also involves setting healthy boundaries for ourselves. As children, we may not have had the ability to set these boundaries. As adults, however, we have the power to decide what we allow into our lives and what we keep out. It's about protecting our inner child from harm and creating a safe space for growth and healing. Remember, reparenting is not a quick fix. It's a journey that requires patience, compassion, and persistence. It's about learning to love ourselves unconditionally in spite of our shadows. It's about acknowledging our worth and celebrating our strengths. As we reparent ourselves, we begin to gain control over our shadows. We no longer let them dictate our actions or influence our relationships. Instead, we integrate them into our lives, using them as tools for personal growth and self-discovery. In the process of reparenting, our adult selves take the reins, leading us towards inner freedom. We become the parents we needed, the parents we deserved. And in doing so, we heal not just our past, but also our present and our future. Reparenting is about nurturing our inner child and healing past wounds. It's about giving ourselves the love we may not have received, the love we've always deserved. And in doing so, we find that our shadows, once daunting, become our greatest teachers. Integration is the ultimate goal of shadow work, but what does this mean, you may ask? Well, it's about embracing every part of ourselves, the light and the dark, the good and the not so good. It's about understanding that our shadows are not just monsters lurking in the dark corners of our psyche. They are part of us, influencing our actions, choices, and relationships. Imagine a tapestry woven with threads of various colors, some bright, others dark. Each thread is vital to the overall design. Our personality is like that tapestry, and our shadows are those darker threads. They might not be as pleasant to look at, but they are essential to our wholeness. Removing them would distort the pattern, the story of who we are. In the journey of personal development, acknowledging our shadows is just the first step. We must go beyond acknowledgement and integrate these shadows into our conscious awareness. This process isn't about eradicating our shadows, as that would be denying a part of ourselves. Instead, it's about understanding them, learning from them, and using their power for our growth. So how do we integrate our shadows? It starts with acceptance. Accepting our shadows doesn't mean condoning negative behaviors or patterns. It means acknowledging that these aspects exist within us and they have a role to play in our lives. Then we can begin to understand why they exist, what triggers them, and how they influence our actions. This understanding allows us to make conscious decisions rather than being driven by unconscious forces. The integration process also involves forgiveness, specifically self-forgiveness. Many of our shadows stem from past experiences, often from childhood. Holding on to guilt, regret, or resentment only strengthens these shadows. By forgiving ourselves, we allow healing and transformation to occur. Lastly, integration is about empowerment. It's about reclaiming the energy that was once spent on suppressing our shadows and redirecting it towards our growth. This is the true power of integration. It's a journey that leads to a more authentic self, a self that is not fragmented but whole. Integrating our shadows allows us to harness their power for positive growth. It's not an easy journey, but it's one worth embarking on. For in the dance between light and shadow, we find our true selves. Identifying patterns in our lives is a key aspect of shadow work. This process of self-discovery allows us to uncover the hidden aspects of ourselves that influence our actions, reactions, and relationships in everyday life. Think about the repetitive scenarios you find yourself in. Perhaps it's a constant fear of judgment that hinders you from expressing your true self, or a lack of confidence that prevents you from seizing opportunities. Maybe it's recurring relationship dramas that leave you questioning your self-worth. These patterns are not random occurrences, but rather manifestations of our shadows. They're the whispers of our subconscious mind trying to communicate something crucial to us. To address our shadows, we must first recognize these patterns. It's like putting together the pieces of a complex puzzle. Each pattern is a piece that, when assembled, reveals the image of our hidden self, our shadow. Once we've identified these patterns, we can begin to understand their roots. This is where introspection becomes invaluable. We start by asking ourselves probing questions. What triggers these patterns? What deep-seated fears or insecurities are they linked to? By peeling back the layers of our emotions and past experiences, we can trace these patterns back to their origin, to the shadows they represent. But remember, this process isn't about blame. It's not about pointing fingers at our past or wallowing in self-pity. It's about understanding, accepting, and integrating these shadow aspects of ourselves. Recognizing these patterns is more than just a step towards self-awareness. It's an invitation to heal. Each pattern holds a lesson, an opportunity for growth. By acknowledging and addressing these patterns, we can break free from the chains of our shadows and step into the light of personal growth. So let's not shy away from these patterns. Instead, let's view them as signposts, guiding us towards our shadows. Because it's only when we face these shadows head-on that we can truly begin to understand and accept ourselves as whole, multifaceted beings. Our patterns are our shadows calling out to us. Listening to them is the key to personal growth. Embracing our shadows might sound counterintuitive, but it's a crucial step towards inner freedom. In the grand tapestry of our lives, our shadows thread their way through each moment, shaping our experiences and reactions. They're not anomalies to be eradicated, but integral parts of our psyche to be understood and integrated. Think of them not as enemies, but as teachers, guiding us towards a deeper understanding of ourselves. When we embrace our shadows, we're acknowledging that we are complex beings with a myriad of emotions and experiences. We're not just the sum of our positive attributes, but also of our struggles and vulnerabilities. This acceptance is powerful, for it's only when we see ourselves in totality that we can truly grow. Embracing our shadows doesn't mean that we let them run rampant. Quite the contrary, it's about taking ownership of them, understanding their origins, and learning how to navigate their influence. It's akin to taming a wild horse. We don't aim to suppress its spirit, but to channel its energy in a way that serves us. Remember, our shadows are born out of our past experiences, and often they're responses to situations that once threatened our well-being. By embracing them, we're also acknowledging our resilience and our capacity to adapt. We're honoring our journey and the wisdom we've gained from it. Embracing our shadows also brings emotional balance. When we suppress parts of ourselves, it creates internal discord. Embracing our shadows resolves this tension, allowing us to feel more at peace with ourselves. It's like tuning an instrument. When all the strings are in harmony, the music flows effortlessly and beautifully. True inner freedom comes from self-acceptance. It's about living authentically and unapologetically, shadows and all. When we embrace our shadows, we take a significant step towards this freedom. We break free from the shackles of self-rejection and step into a space of self-compassion and understanding. By embracing our shadows, we embark on a journey towards wholeness, This journey might not always be easy, but it's undeniably transformative and enriching. So let's take this step with courage and open-heartedness. After all, our shadows are not our downfall, but our gateway to self-discovery and inner freedom. Shadow work isn't a quick fix. It's a lifelong journey of self-discovery and growth. It's about peeling back the layers of our subconscious, delving into the depths of our inner selves. This journey can be challenging, even uncomfortable at times, yet it's essential for authentic personal development. We've discussed the importance of recognizing our shadows, those hidden aspects of ourselves that influence our actions and relationships. Confronting these shadows is not about eradicating them, but rather integrating them into our whole selves. Through the process of reparenting, our adult selves can take control, leading us toward inner freedom. Remember, our shadows aren't our enemies. They're parts of ourselves that hold valuable lessons and opportunities for healing. Embracing our shadows means harnessing their power for positive growth, transforming them from sources of pain into sources of strength. In conclusion, the power of shadow work lies in its ability to reveal our true selves. In the light of self-awareness, our shadows can teach us, heal us, and ultimately empower us.